Sub-officer, the signature's confirmed. Whatever's down there hasn't stopped in 500 years. Run it again.
Sub-Officer Ian Roll had cleared 3 minefields, out-argued a war tribunal, and once talked a starving void serpent out of eating an away team. None of it had prepared him to be afraid of a filing cabinet. The readout in front of him didn't care what he was supposed to be afraid of. 400 kilometers below his cruiser, on the frozen skeleton of a mining outpost the Ostinari Concord had annexed and mostly forgotten about, something had been drawing power for 5 centuries. Steadily, patiently, like it had nowhere else to be. Run it again, Roll said. The scan came back the same. 3 systems over, and depending on whose calendar you asked, either 500 years earlier or this past Tuesday, I was cleaning out my uncle's storage unit. Time gets weird near fold points. What felt like a slow afternoon to me apparently felt like half a millennium to everybody else. Details. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was thinking about how my uncle had somehow accumulated for broken toasters, and whether the busted mining relay job I'd half-finished on some rock called Outpost 6 was ever going to pay out. Probably not. The company had gone under before I even got the invoice. I did remember telling the drone to wait for me. Archivist Vesa Kaur got the file 2 hours after Roll's team backed off the outpost, and she almost laughed at it. Almost. The unit down there wasn't Concord tech. Wasn't anyone's tech she recognized. Its power core, by every model she trusted, should have failed within 6 months of use. Cheap capacitor stock, no redundancy, no maintenance log of any kind. And yet the thing had been running at nominal output for 511 years without a single service entry. She checked the number twice. Then she checked whether anyone had been lying to her. Nobody had. What kind of engineer builds something to outlast itself by a factor of 1,000 and then just walks away from it? The answer, as it turned out, was an engineer who wasn't thinking about it at all. I'd cobbled Steve together in an afternoon out of spare relay parts and a decommissioned cargo loader chassis, mostly so raiders wouldn't wander off with my tool crate while I was topside fixing antenna arrays. I gave him one job. Watch the shed. Don't let anybody take my stuff. I was going to be back in 20 minutes. Then my sister called about Mom, and I caught the next transport out, and I genuinely, completely forgot to tell him otherwise. In my defense, it had been a really stressful week. Roll's second approach didn't go much better than the first. He sent 3 armored scouts down to make contact, cautious, non-lethal protocols engaged. The machine didn't attack them. That was almost worse. It simply, gently, herded all 3 back to their shuttle, disarmed, confused, and completely unharmed, the way you'd walk a stray dog off your porch. Then it went back to standing guard over a rusted tool crate like nothing had happened. Historical scans showed it had done the exact same thing to at least 4 other groups over 5 centuries: scavengers, a warlord's raiding party, 2 separate empires survey teams. Every single one turned away, without a scratch. Roll stared at the footage for a long time before he asked the question out loud. It's been holding back this whole time. From what, exactly? Nobody could answer him, so he went looking through the local system's own records instead, expecting military logs. What he found was folklore. 3 separate civilizations in the sector had, at various points, developed a quiet local legend about the Unmoving One, a guardian spirit said to watch over the ruins and turn away anyone who meant harm. Temples had been built facing the outpost. Offerings had been left at a respectful distance. Nobody in 500 years had gotten close enough to learn it was a cargo loader chassis with a name tag. Roll filed his report and requested, in writing, that someone above his pay grade take over. Sir, he added at the bottom, recommend we do not, under any circumstances, attempt to move the tool crate. By the time Fleet Commander Thurn Vash got the briefing, someone had finally translated the stenciled lettering across the machine's chassis. Steve, property of Dale. Do not touch. Cross-referencing Dale against 500-year-old contractor manifests took 11 minutes. Cross-referencing the species attached to that name took considerably longer, mostly because Vasht kept assuming the database was broken. Homo sapiens. Earth. A minor, largely unremarkable species best known in Concord records for a trade dispute over shipping tariffs, and, buried in a footnote nobody had ever flagged as important, occasional casual disregard for equipment left in the field. Vashk read that footnote 4 times. This was equipment they forgot about, he said slowly. What does the equipment they remember look like? Nobody in the briefing room answered. Vashk took the silence as confirmation that he already knew. Recall the survey fleet from the border, he said quietly. All of it. Until we understand what we're looking at, I would rather we weren't looking at anything else. That question turned out to have an answer nobody wanted. Once the sector-wide search went active, Concord surveyors found 6 more anomalies scattered across old human contract routes. Devices, drones, one entire automated relay tower, all still running, all centuries past any reasonable service life, all left behind with the same shrugging indifference. One was an automated grain harvester on a dead-end farming contract, still faithfully bundling and shipping crops to a buyer who had gone extinct 400 years earlier, because nobody had ever told it to stop. None of it was weaponized. None of it was built to impress anyone. It was hardware some human had considered disposable enough to leave in a shed. Vesa Kaur put it to the War Council as gently as she could manage. Concord's own flagship AI cores needed refits every 11 years and failed within 60. Whatever standard humans held themselves to, this 5 centuries of flawless, restrained, forgotten junk was the version they didn't think mattered. Nobody in the room had a comforting theory for what the version that did mattered would be capable of. Locating Dale himself took another 6 hours and very nearly caused 3 separate cardiac incidents among the diplomatic corps. He wasn't hidden. He wasn't dead. He wasn't even hard to find, a licensed independent contractor, still active, current status logged as available, flexible hours. His most recent listed job, time-stamped that same week, read, Storage Unit Cleanout, Half-Day, Cash Preferred. The Concord Council convened an emergency session. Full honor guard was authorized. 3 xenolinguists were put on standby. Every available resource was allocated toward the singular, terrifying possibility that the owner of this thing might simply decide to come collect it in person. Which, as it happened, I did, mostly because I found the old invoice in a drawer and figured, since I had a slow week anyway, I might as well swing by and grab my tool crate. And check on Steve. Poor guy had probably been bored out of his circuits. I did not expect an honor guard. I definitely didn't expect the translators, or the very stiff-looking officer who saluted my beat-up personal shuttle like it was a warship. I mostly just noted that Steve looked a little dusty, patted his chassis, and told him good job, buddy, sorry that took a while. Steve made a small satisfied whirring noise I chose to interpret as forgiveness. I thanked the very pale officer for watching the place, assumed he was new contract security, and asked if anybody minded me grabbing my drill bits before I headed home. Nobody minded. Nobody, as far as I could tell, was capable of speaking at all. Somebody did eventually ask, very carefully, whether I intended to leave Steve behind again. I said no, obviously, and apologized for the mix-up, and promised I'd leave a proper forwarding address this time. That seemed to help. A little. The Ostinari Concord quietly revised humanity's threat classification that same afternoon, from negligible, monitor for trade disputes, to a designation Vashk personally recommended be capitalized in every future report. I found out my drill bits were exactly where I'd left them, which, frankly, is more than I can say for my own garage. Steve's coming home with me for a tune-up. He's earned it. If you ever hear a human say, just hang tight, I'll be right back, maybe don't unpack for a while.